Hello, my name is Riley, and welcome to an art tutorial. It's been a while since I last recorded anything. I moved last year, and then I went straight into college within the same month, which was September. And I've been in college, up until the current, interest of the year, I suppose. Um, but that doesn't matter. It's been kind of a hectic, and I felt like getting back into some things that I enjoyed, which so far is recording videos and doing commissions. So here we go. I'm gonna start with going on how I usually make heads and the facial structures. So usually I start with a circle, and I usually go for these lovely things where it looks kind of manky, and I usually draw from there. Lovely, weird looking head. The other option you got is this lovely thing, which will not work um, traditionally, unfortunately, as fun as that would be. And that goes from here, and you can mess around. Make it big, make it sassy. But I generally don't like doing it that way, so I won't use that one as the rest. I missed. There we go. But I generally start with this kind of thing. So, head, one circle, and then you're drawing in the jaw lines. And the head shapes can vary, so there's this one, which is a bit of the rectangle, or the brick, the greatest strong man. There's this lovely thing, which is the triangle, which usually is put on evil characters. The more wicked he is, the more angular his face is. And there's a few other variations. Let's see. There's the heart, which is the most romantic face. Cute, cutie. And there's the circular, which is usually chubby cheeks, so good for children and chubby characters. Cats, even. That's bad effort, but circular. The circular head is just chubby. There's the oval, so circle, oval it out. Usually thoughtful characters, in my opinion. There's of course the other triangle, which everyone knows, or should know. And he's an interesting one, because his head shape's not generally used that much. And then there's, of course, the square, which is shallower than the brick. He's just not as intelligently smart, I guess, because this is usually a meathead, blockhead, whatever you want to call it. It's one of them. That is the general head shapes. There are certainly more. For furries, you kind of go for the circular and you round out some cheeks more. Another option is to just give rounded triangles on both sides of the face, and then you put whatever you want. You can put a muzzle or whatever, and make what other animals you want. So dog, cat, bird, ears. That's general head shapes. It all starts with a circle. It doesn't always have to start with a circle, but a circle does definitely help. Circles are your friends, and they help very much. Then comes down to the middle of the face. So that's a big. So this lovely thing has the middle of the face, just underneath the eyes, and the middle face is where your nose is. Of course, you can have your nose wherever you want it. You can have it up here or down there. Depends on what kind of thing you're going for, of course. And noses are kind of like triangles sometimes. Triangle with a triangle shape, trapezoid shape, depending. Sometimes it's a lovely little potato. And you want to emphasize that it's a lovely little potato, so you round it quite a lot. Just make sure everyone knows it's a potato. We got the fun ones, which are just nostrils and, Lord Voldemort, your dragons, lizards, snakes, triangle shape can even be a bit on the droopier side. So instead of perking up that much, it goes down with another triangle. Noses are weird. That is a certain fact. And they're all way more rounded than the triangle shape will ever give you, so it's always curving. So this nose, curved. That nose, curved. All noses, curvy. There are some sharp noses, and that's generally for reptiles mostly, but even they have a soft nose. So snake still has a bit of a roundness. And some of them puppy face. Depends on what kind of snake you're going for. I'm very bad at drawing snakes, so there we go. My best competition. It's generally a round thing that's made up kind of triangles to give you the best gist. At least the part that isn't the end is a triangle. Sometimes it's a bit of a crushed one, and that's usually because it's a broken nose, so your nose can kind of go squiff if you wanna. And it's just to show someone broke it at one point, so you can even broaden that out and still have the cute little turn up if you're going for a button nose. Basically, smash it, mash it up, does not matter, it's a nose. A nose can look any way, shape, or form, but it's usually quite rounded. And if you want to go for something anime, there's always this, which is not the best one. And then there's just that, which is a great end of the nose because the rest of the nose is generally around this area. I love how my pen does not want to pick up right now. But yeah, the nose is generally here. So this lovely line, this other line, there you go, a nose. There's noses, and then comes to your peepers, which are generally on this line. Lovely glasses on this, sir. They can be lower sometimes, which is to give childlike. Higher is a bit more alien. The eyes are usually round. Usually the bottom is round. So underneath the eye, where your eye kind of hangs on, basically is being held in, but hanging out is rounded. And this line can be any way. This line can be angular. I always remember here. You don't need to remember the tear ducts, but tear ducts are quite nice. Everyone has them. They let you cry. Eyes. The iris is always round. Unless you're going for like an alien fucker, and then you can fuck around with it. There's eyes like this. So you know it's strange. It's always good to remember the bottom side. So there's eyes like this. And you can have folds. It's usually above the eye, but you have some below the eye sometimes, and that's usually because you're tired, haven't slept enough, so you got bags underneath your eyes. Another rule of thumb that you can use is the rectangle. And the rectangle is just really to contain the eye so that you can figure out what to do with it. And the rectangle, generally, I'm going to quickly change color, blue. The rectangle is generally, the nose is about here, and the rectangle generally starts here on this side, and there on that side. And it's a good way to tell. But this lovely rectangle, depending on which way you're going, so there's this way or this way. I'm gonna go easiest way for me, which is this way. So you start with the under part and kind of draw up if you want to. This just helps you figure out a way to shape the eye. It doesn't always need to go directly to the top of the box. The box just is there. You don't need to draw to the top of the box, but you definitely need to draw all the way down to the bottom, usually. And this is to show different ways of the eye. Top of the box doesn't really matter too much. Your eye is just an orb inside of it, so there's this eye orb, and there's this one. And the eyelid is just what's over it. Of course, you got your funny little lizard-like creatures, reptiles, or whatever, and they usually have eyelids on the inside of their eyes. So their eyes close this way rather than this way. It's always a good thing to keep in mind when you're coming up with character designs, especially if you're going for like more reptilian. How do you want your eyes to close? And I mean, it's a good thing to do in my opinion because I make a lot of weird creatures. And then the next thing to come, ooh, that's the wrong layer. Doing something with my life. The next thing to come is a mouth. So this lovely thing. It is generally here on this line. That is this, and then nose, and then mouth. Doesn't always have to be that way, but that is where it generally is. Your mouth can be made up of a few lines or a lot of lines, and then you can always do, again, with the wrong one, you can always do the rectangle as well for this. This helps if you want to do some realistic mouths. It does not help for mouths you just want to look like whatever. So you have this and this, and you draw off of this. I'm very good at this and that, aren't I? The upper lip usually curves down a few times, and there's usually a little crease here, which is the end of your mouth, and that is usually either creased or just slightly more open. You got your cupid's bow. This part is usually curved down. And this can sometimes extend out of the box because the box only really matters to figure out where you're centering it rather than the size. The size doesn't fully matter unless you want it to matter, and then you can either shrink down the mouth to fit the box or not at all. A good thing to do is just lines. Lines help, so you can do a mouth like this. Just remember there's a gap around about here because that is where I'm trying to remember what it's called, but it's where your top lip bumps out a little, so this thing. And I remember the top of that, that's the cupid's bow, but I don't remember this, and it's a great thing to not remember. But it's basically lines, and you can either do ones where they thin out, and it's good to have thick at one end, thin, and then thick again. You can move the gap around a little. I mean, it helps to be where it curves down, but it doesn't have to be exact. But it does help. And you can have the bottom of the lip as a little thing. You can do a little curve for the top. It doesn't work too well for furry mouths to do this if you're doing something with a muzzle, so if you got a muzzle like this, you don't really want to have a mouth like this underneath this nose. You can, it just looks a little weird sometimes. A better thing to do instead of that is one line curving. But then I just like realistic looking things, in my opinion. So when it comes to furries, I usually have mine with pretty accurate mouths to how they curve. You can do the lip thing to a furry mouth. It just looks a little bit odd, in my opinion. But again, it's really your choice. But lines help, and they need to have some curve to them, but they can be quite straight. It just looks a little bit odd. And it always helps to have a parting line between it so that you know where it's so closed that it's seamless, which is usually there, and it gives like an idea that maybe there's a shadow or something. They do it a lot with anime mouths as well, so that's another thing to do. If you want to go for straight cartoon, then you don't thin it out, you kind of just leave it thick. I'm using a sketch brush that I have, so it's not great. So there's thick mouth. There's another one. Lovely smiley face. Or horrific, actually, because Jesus, I forgot the sketch brush does that smudge thing. This one's better, and I just have it at max size. So it's way too small. Lovely faces like this. but extraordinarily big mouths. Let me shrink that down a little so it's not as horrendous. And of course, you can do eyes like that as well. With that, the mouth, nose, eyes. What else is attached to a face? I think that's ears, right? Ears are attached to a face, in a sense. So we got a lovely head. It's ever changing, so now it's an oval. And ears. Ears are usually about here, which is below this line. And sometimes equal with the mouth, not always, usually equal with the bottom of the nose. And that just is a good spacing. And with ears, I generally don't draw ears, but a good way to do it is a circle and a trapezoid, like in this shape. So you've got this, and you just draw off of it. And that's for human ears. It can work for elf ears, of course. You just need to like lengthen it out and bring in more lines. For furries, it's kind of a hit and miss because I don't usually draw bases for them. I just draw lines. So, you know, there's rabbit ear, or it can be a deer ear, depending on how thick the fluff is and how big the head is. And then with cats, cats and most dogs, it's usually just a triangle shape that I'm going for. That's less curved in and cone shape. And with their down ears, with like down ears for dogs, it's a bigger hit and miss because I don't draw them that much. I draw bunny ears down like that though. Lop ears aren't that too hard. They don't have like the curve, I suppose. Well, other ears can follow this. Draw some orc ears like that, and you just don't have to draw the height of the circle. You don't have to go to the full height, you can go halfway and curve down, and that's how some orc ears are. Trying to think, what else can I give? Yeah, because with furry ears, I kind of just draw lines and work it out from there. And human ears, it's always keeping in mind human ears and anything that is human-esque. I go and try to remember the circle and the trapezoid, because the trapezoid is also your friend in many situations when drawing any part of the body. Trying to think. There's mermaid ears that don't really follow this, so they change. Some of them follow that, so there's mermaid ears that follow this, and they usually have like a point here, and then the inside is like a conch shell. Not conch shell, but snail shell. And they just kind of curve around like that. Other ears I just draw lines for. I'm not very good at giving an idea of what you draw for other ears. Like ears like this, I just draw lines for, so I don't know how to break it down. Just think, I suppose, like really terrible hands. How they tell you not to draw hands, which is spikes. And then you just draw spikes instead. So there's ears like this. Normal ears. Just things like that. What else? I usually have something written down to tell me what to do, and I always forget sometimes anyway, and I'm not great. at remembering what I'm supposed to do. So I got head shape, nose, eyes, mouth, ears. What else is attached to a head? It's usually hair, and hair I also don't know how to help with because, so, didn't make another layer. So there we go. This, I'm gonna draw a side view this time. So with a side view, it's usually this vague roundness, but not always. I'm gonna draw on the neck, and the neck is the same where it's just a curved line all the time. You want a curved line. So with hair, it's generally, you're trying to keep it curved all the time. Like, always curved, because hair is a very flat thing on a person. Like, on a real person, your hair is very flat to your head for the most part, and it's got like little interesting things like thwips. That's not the word for it, it's curls. Yeah, curls, you got. So, well, curls sounds interesting. Because you want to draw it in pieces if you want to do really loose curls. And with loose curls, you can fuck up still, so I'm already messing up a little. Where you want to keep it so that you know that it's turning. And the way to know it's always turning is to just keep going, I suppose. So there's a turn, there's a turn, there's a turn, there's. And with characters with frizzier hair, I don't generally draw it. I usually kind of put it in with this brush, which is a sketch brush, which is only on here, and then I kind of just mess around with what I'm doing because I don't trust myself to do a good job for characters with like the thicker hair. I'm used to my wiry self-curling hair that goes everywhere all the time but isn't thick. I mean, it is thick, but it's not the right thick. And honestly, this is not the best way to draw hair that's very different from your own. If you have hair like mine that's basically wire thin, this is not the best way. And I know there's certainly better ways to do it. I'd have to find them, and that would help there rather than in this. So I'm going to put that as no, not a probably no. Just try not to. There's better ways. Yep, that's how you do a bead. There we go. There's better ways. Because there are. I've seen tutorials for it, and I know that I used one of those tutorials to do one of my characters. One of my black characters, her name is Mother Goddess, and she has hair drawn to that tutorial, but at the same time, I'm not very good at remembering. So I try not to do this. I can do the other hairstyles are like simple because they're either going down and you don't have to draw that much. You're just sometimes you draw in lines, sometimes you don't. It depends on what kind of shade it is, because if you're needing to draw lines, it's because it's a lighter hair color. If it's like black or dark brown, you don't need the lines as much, and you just need light color that you've smudged a little. This is just how I do it, and then you have like another light color sometimes, but most of the time you have a darker color of it. So you got like your medium color, darker color, lighter color, and then darker color again with sometimes a light color in between those, just to like add variation. But generally hair is just, it's a curved line. Your head is a curved shape. Everyone's head is a curved shape. And you gotta remember that it just curves. It always curves. There's this. There's anime protagonist hair, which is much more wild, and you don't really draw that much to it. And it's always more up, usually. Or really brightly colored, of course. And just manic. But that's the best I can give for hair, and I think that's about the end of it. I'm gonna be trying to do more art tutorials, and that is just a case of finding when and where I can do it, of course. But I know, given the current situation, I probably have a lot more time to do things, and it's going to be a slightly easier time of it, which is going to be really great, but at the same time really bad, because I am a depressed asshole, and so I'm just going to get sad sometimes, way more than I usually do, which not the best feeling to have, but it's going to be the feeling, and not much you can do with that sometimes. So I would say be safe. Well, not would say, I will say be safe and stay at home for now, and keep on doing your best. If you're learning something new, definitely try and keep at it. If it gets a lot sometimes, then take a moment to yourself. And if you I'm running out of thought again, but just know, not alone in this, as lonesome as the current time is. You're not alone. And I'm trying to remember how his face looks. Um, a real quick thing of looking it up. He's gonna have a pink line around him, which is gonna be cute. Oh, sorry, loud, isn't that? Wrong layer. But yeah, definitely be safe, stay at home, and whatever you're aspiring to do it. You can, and I believe very wholeheartedly in you. And whatever push comes to shove, just know that I am here to push it with you. Because you are good. And you can do this. And I'm glad you watched this video.